This week on Barely Homesteading, trails down the hill. As we've mentioned before on Barely Homesteading, our property is divided primarily into three sections. An upper section where the house and garden and most of our activity is done. The lower section, which is basically devoid of trees and makes a good pasture land. And then between, we have a very steep sloped area, about 80 to 100 feet high, that is very highly wooded. And that slope divides the two halves of the property quite substantially. So in order to get down from the upper part to the lower part, as we've talked about in an earlier video, we just recently put in an access drive to the lower pastures. It's not always practical to drive down to the lower pasture, and so we also have trails that we have put into this hill to get from one half to the other half. And every year we work on these trails a little bit more, expand them, improve them, and so that's what we're working on today, is expanding our trails and making them better. This is the existing trail that we will be connecting the new section of Trail 2. So, keeping with the principle of use it up, when we're working on the trails, we try to utilize the material that we already have, fallen trees and branches, for borders and walls, retaining walls, and to keep those walls in place, we often will have to put some stakes into the ground. So here I have some pieces of a branch that I've cut to lengths. I'm going to sharpen them to a point and use them as stakes.
Yeah, I've already been filming.
Oh. Alright, so we've got the stakes. Just going to pound them in to the ground here. To support this fallen tree that we are using as a retaining wall.
Hey, I need a Yeti stomp. Does anybody want to be my Yeti stomper? Go stomp where Daddy was digging.
So, take the Sawzall and we'll cut off these branch stumps so that if someone trips and falls, they don't impale themselves. The ones that are going to be down here below the ground level, we don't need to worry about because it'll help with erosion. And then these that are going to be open on the wall side, we'll want to cut off as well. Again, if someone trips and falls and rolls over that, we don't want them catching on any sharp edges. So Mama Bear will work on that while I work on some stakes and closing off this hole right here, and then we'll fill this in. Alright, so as we're building these trails down the hill, we run into different obstacles like this scrub maple here. It's got a lot of dead branches on it that cover up where we want this path to go, this trail to go. So I need to cut some of these out, and then we may actually use some of these branches for stakes or barriers for the path, etc. Now I'm going to be using the 16-inch Poland chainsaw for this. These branches aren't very big, and our Poland hasn't gotten a lot of use since we fixed Senior Husky and got Junior Husky. But for things like this, this Poland works absolutely perfectly. The Husqvarnas are way more than what we would need for something like this. In addition to the paths that we're putting in on the hill, we're also going to be putting in a set of steps from the bottom all the way to the top, and it's going to cross the path at a couple of places. And so I'm putting in one of the steps of that staircase now so that I can build the path kind of around it. Okay, so these stairs are simply 3.5 foot long logs that I've cut in half lengthwise with the chainsaw. I've taken and pre-drilled 3/4 inch holes all the way through and put 2-foot metal spikes, 3/4 inch diameter, through those holes. Just pounded them right in to the pounded them right into the hillside, and that's pretty stable. I'll use the back side of this step as a support for the walls of the trail. That's why I wanted to get this in first, because I can utilize it for the trail, and also wanted to have it level and define where that trail needs to be relative to the steps. So I just finished pounding in those 2 spikes for the step, and Mama Bear wanted me to let all of you know that I'm a 45-year-old man, so it's never too late to start this as long as you are in somewhat decent health and somewhat crazy. Okay. So we have the path pretty much done for the year. So this is down in our lower part of the property, down in the pasture area. And let's take a walk up the path. So it's not very wide, it's a good walking path. We definitely won't be able to put vehicles on it at the moment, but perhaps in the future we can widen it to do so. Still got a couple of areas they're going to need some work. They're a little steep. This is that step that we put in. I still need to put in the additional steps going down. May work on that this weekend. And so this is what we've done this year, basically up to that tree stump right there. That's all the work we've done this year. Pretty good length of path, and I think that's going to serve us pretty well. It's certainly easier than trekking up this steep slope, which is what we have been using. And these paths serve more than just giving us an easier way to access coming up and down this hill. They also serve another important purpose for us, in that they give us a bit of a fire break. Our house is up at the top of this fairly steep hill, and if we were to get a wildfire through here and if we didn't have this hill cleaned up of all the dead wood and kindling, that fire would travel very quickly up this hill and take out the house. And so even though these paths are not very wide, they do serve an important purpose as a fire break. And as we work on them more and widen them and continue to get rid of all of the dead material on the hill, it'll just improve our fire mitigation and protect the house. So with that, this is Lumberjack for Barely Homesteading. Saying, use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. Please like and subscribe.